Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. House Republicans to vote on bill abolishing the IRS, eliminating income tax.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Vote on abolishing the IRS was part of the deal between Speaker McCarthy and House Freedom Caucus members. Now, does this have a chance of passing? Probably not. I put the chances at less than 10%. But here's my point. We're going to see who votes against it on the Republican side. Every single Democrat will vote against it. There's absolutely no question. But I want you, everybody that listens to this video, to look up online who their congressional representative is and call their office and be polite and say, hey, I understand there's a floor vote coming up in the IRS, and I hope that my representative, Jane Smith of the 2nd Congressional District of my state, votes to eliminate it. If she doesn't, I'm going to seriously consider not voting for her in the next cycle and on the same party as her. Let me give you a few thoughts. It's a good idea. It's an excellent idea. Not just to get rid of the bureaucratic nonsense, but just the pain and the misery that the IRS puts tens of thousands, millions over time through. Businesses, just get audited at a regular basis almost every year. It costs them a fortune. The only ones going to get screwed out of this are probably accountants, and I can live with that. But the thing of it is, tax attorneys that charge thousands of dollars an hour to these big corporations, come on. They usually win in court against the government because they're better equipped and more knowledgeable than their own IRS lawyers are. But let's get to the nuts and bolts of it. Right now, from some digging I've done and some fact checking, anywhere from 52 to 57% of working people, I'm not talking about Social Security or welfare or disability or anything like that, depending on where you go, between 52 and 57% of working people in this country pay zero net federal taxes. That's more than half the working people. Now, they say, well, John, good for them, between the child tax credit and other deductions. Well, John, good for them. Hey, why should they have to pay? The point is this. These bottom 50% plus that pay zero net federal taxes, many get more than they put in. Many just don't pay anything. But here's the rub. They get to vote for people that are going to take more money from the upper half and give it to them. Therein lies the danger. Well, we won't even talk the fact that I think it's morally wrong to force somebody to give you money by voting for somebody. We'll just talk about the fact that it's incredibly dangerous. They have no skin in the game. None. That's why you'll see states like Tennessee, for example, which I live in upstate New York. I'm seriously considered moving to central Tennessee. They have zero state tax, but they do have a tax on consumer products, i.e. what you buy in the store, what you buy online, goods and services. Somebody, your accountant does your taxes for you. There's a percent that you have to pay. Now, in the county in central Tennessee, in Cumberland County, where I was at, where I might move, it's 9% for all goods and services. So if you go to Walmart or anywhere or a restaurant, there's a 9% sales tax. But there's a 5% tax on food-eligible items. This puts these people that have been paying nothing, it puts some skin in the game for them. And the next time they go to vote, they're going to vote for people that are going to lower their tax burden, not give them money from somebody else. And that's going to dramatically change state governments and maybe even at the federal level. Local and state governments and the federal level. All three of those are involved in these tax schemes. Now, is that going to get rid of state taxes or property taxes? Unfortunately, in New York, no. But, like I said, it's participatory government. You want to put in money for the national treasury and you think that's a great thing, God bless you. But if you don't, then vote for people that are going to cut your taxes. Now, we survived from the George Washington all the way through Woodrow Wilson, which in my estimation, Woodrow Wilson was the most evil, harm-causing, has caused this country more harm long-term than any president that ever existed. Do some research. Not just the income tax, other things as well. It's just horrible, horrible. And we're paying the price still 110 years later. I believe the income tax went in 1913. And those of you who think that's a million years ago, it really isn't. 110 years is not very long in the history of a country. We survived for a long time without a federal income tax. A long time. And they started enforcing it full bore in the 1920s, especially late teens, 1920s, with all the bootleggers and the criminals during Prohibition. Another government overreach. And by the way, the Volstead Act, the amendment that made alcohol illegal to sell or transport, is the only amendment ever to be repealed. Ever. I'll say that again. The only amendment to the Constitution to ever be repealed. And that's when they started really pushing in force, going after the bootleggers and the other people that were supposedly criminals. The older people, the little old lady in the apartment building that makes bathtub gin is now a federal criminal. And that's how these guys operate. But I digress. Will this probably pass? No. But call your representatives. I used to be a local elected official. Granted, a city council member that I was is not even close to the power and authority of a congress member. But politics is politics and people are people. You get several hundred phone calls into your congressional district office or offices saying vote for this. You would be surprised at the influence just a couple of hundred people have. Congressional districts are what, 800,000 people? Something like that. A couple of hundred phone calls quite often changes the mind of an elected official, a representative. We can go into some of the details. Let's just breeze through it. Republicans in the House have voted a bill that would abolish the IRS. Be voting on the Georgia Republican bill, remove national income tax, well, other taxes, and place them with a single consumption tax, i.e. sales tax. It was part of the deal with McCarthy when he was made Speaker. Instead of adding 7,000 new agents to weaponize the IRS and small business owners in middle America, the bill will eliminate the need for a department entirely by simplifying the tax code. Armed, unelected bureaucrats should not have more power over your paycheck than you do. I agree with all of that. The Fair Tax Act eliminates the tax code, replaces income tax with a sales tax, and abolishes the abuse of the Internal Revenue Service. If enacted, it will invigorate the American taxpayer and help more Americans achieve the American dream. This is the part that these Democrats and progressives don't get. When you lower taxes, it actually increases revenue at the state, local, and federal level. This transforms the U.S. tax code from a mandatory, progressive, and convoluted system to a transparent and unbiased system that does away with the IRS as we know it. Yeah, I had a business. You collect sales tax, and you pay that quarterly. In other words, they'll put your gross sales, gross taxable sales, and your gross non-taxable sales. Just like in Tennessee, everything will be taxable, some at a different rate. And every quarter, that money that business collected for their goods or services sends in that money. In my case, the state of New York. And then the state of New York disperses it. They keep half. It's 8% here. New York State keeps 4%, which is half. The other 4% is between the county I reside in, and the other 2% is distributed among the municipalities in this county based on population. I urge my colleagues to support. Now, it's not going to pass, but I want it to be close. I want it to be close because the IRS is used as a weapon to go after people they don't like. The bill gets rid of the death, gift, and payroll taxes, and it would replace the current tax code with a national consumption tax, i.e. sales tax. 11 co-signers signed on to the bill. The bill illustrates the hardline stance House Republicans are taking with Biden. I don't think that's a hardline stance at all. I'm surprised that Fox would say that. It's not a hardline stance at all. A flat tax, a consumer tax, has been talked about for decades. Decades. I think this would be it would be wonderful. It would be, if this is all the 118th Congress and the Republicans do, now here's the thing, it will get to the Senate. The Senate will not vote for it because Democrats control it, but here's the thing. There's a lot of Democrats coming up for re-election in the Senate in 2024. If you flood with phone calls to your not only Congress member, but your senator, now in my state it wouldn't really work much because of the fact that it's a deep, deep blue state, but do it anyway. Even if you're in a deep blue state, get a hold of your Congress member and your U.S. senators, especially if they're coming up for re-election in 2024, and say, I'm going to work against you. I belong to the same party as you. I'm going to work against you in your next election. They'll blow it off at first, but as hundreds of phone calls come in, they'll start taking it seriously. This is just a first step, chipping away. I think this is wonderful. Like I said, it won't pass, but it's a start. And as long as we keep influencing our representatives, the more votes this type of legislation will get. What do you think? Until the next time, goodbye and good luck.